Today I want to talk about kind of sameness and difference and kind of an experience I experienced in my life that triggered me to think about something. As I put myself more and more out there, speaking my truth, talking about birth paradigms, talking about birth trauma, what I'm seeing in my clinical practice, what I'm researching, all the stuff that I'm saying and doing, I'm not pulling out of like thin air. Like, it's stuff I've seen in my clinical practice, in my bodywork practice. It's stuff I'm reading in books. It's stuff I'm looking at podcasts. Like, the masculine side of me, it's really important to have that like foundational research. And then I take all the information and like compare it to what I'm seeing in my practice. So a lot of what I say and think about, like, it's all been done before. I'm just affirming what I'm seeing in my practice. And so recently I put a piece of information out there and someone was triggered by it, which is okay. I support the trigger, which led me further into, as it's easier to get more and more access to information, get our hands on all different sorts of opinions, more and more people are putting themselves out there. What we're seeing is this array of differences, people that are different than us, people that have different values, people that have different beliefs, people that have different experiences. And our brain is wired to look for those differences. Our brain, that's how we create safety. And this is something that have just been wired to do for thousands of years to increase our life, to make sure that we were safe. But we still have that innate wiring to specifically walk into a room and point out the differences in other, to then compare if we're safe. And I feel like this is happening online too. So I read something, I hear someone, I watch a video, I listen to someone, and I'm subconsciously picking out the differences, going, where are they different? And then I'm getting triggered. And this is what I'm seeing with other people. So I speak something, I say something, it's different than what you might believe. And then there's a trigger because it feels uncomfortable. It feels yucky. It feels sticky. It's not something you thought of. It's not something I'd thought of. And so then difference is created. And what then our brain has to do is decide if we're safe or not. And because of our conditioning and because of our psychological wiring, when we feel difference, we automatically assume that to not safe, like not okay. I must leave the situation. I must create safety. And for some people, and for me including, like, we create safety by distancing ourselves from other. And then maybe speaking up our own truth and being like, well, I don't believe that. I don't think that way. And then conflict starts. And within this conflict, it creates more distance and more distance and more distance. And then all of a sudden you have these two camps. Like, I think this way and you think that way, and we cannot get along. And this podcast I was listening to by Charles, I'm going to slaughter his last name, Charles Eisenstein. He had this beautiful quote. I'm going to slaughter this quote. Maybe I'll put it below. That said, like, we are in dangerous times when we exclude data points that don't fit our values, our systems, or our political views. So we exclude this piece of information or this piece of data. We refuse to look at it because it doesn't sit well with our current state. And I think it goes back to that place of like, well, it doesn't create safety in me. I feel scared. I don't feel safe. I need to distance myself from that other thought. So what do we do? Like, when I find myself being triggered by others' words, others' perceptions, others' values, it's actually an opportunity for me to lean in and be curious. Like, is what that person's saying an opportunity for me to open up? Is it an opportunity to expand myself? Is what they're saying true? And I've just never thought of it before. Rather than creating more distance, how can I create more closeness? So the brain subconsciously automatically wants to create safety by creating distance. And my question is, like, how can we actually find the sameness Or how can I start to create curiosity? How can I get curious about what they're saying and be like, huh? And if I'm triggered, like, why am I triggered? What is that bringing up in me? What is that bringing up in my own languaging, my own conditioning that makes me feel unsafe right now? And that's a really good question to start to ask the nervous system. Why do I feel unsafe right now? What is it about this other person besides that it's different? Like, what about it? What can I lean into safely and cautiously and carefully and start to explore within myself? How can I use this as an opportunity to expand, create expansion versus contraction? And of course, by all means, if someone is saying something and immediately you know it's not truth, you immediately don't reside with them, I'm not saying like go become their best friend. I'm just saying, can it be an opportunity to create closeness? Can it be an opportunity to move through some triggers? Can it be an opportunity to create some curiosity? Can it be an opportunity to learn how to calm your nervous system, even when there's discomfort? So how can we sit in discomfort, sit in this trigger, and recognize that and say, use some breath, use some breathing, calm the body, and realize, like, you're safe right now. You're totally safe, even though someone might be saying something you don't agree with. And how can it be an opportunity then to lean into and expand the mind? That's just something I've been thinking about. So, which leads to sameness, right? Like, even in conflict, where can we find sameness? Where are we the same? So if you think of difference as like chaotic, crazy energy that's static and movement and vibrant, like, right? When you feel into difference, I get this somatic feeling in my body. When I feel into sameness, it feels much more grounded and calm. Where can we find that? Where can we find that sameness with other? Even if other is someone we don't agree with. I think it comes back to breath, and to curiosity, and calming the nervous system. Getting curious about our triggers, getting curious about ourselves, getting curious about our conditioning, getting curious, like, why do I think that way? Why am I closing myself off to this opportunity to expand and maybe think differently? And I really think if we would start to do that more, the two camps, the two differences would start to dissolve. It would start to dissolve because we'd be able to find sameness. And if there isn't sameness, we'd at least be able to have a calm nervous system within difference, right? All of that creates expansion. We can't do anything if we have an amped up, crazy nervous system, right? And like, we just can't. We don't have a frontal lobe. We can't think well. So it's finding calmness within those spaces and finding ways to connect with people rather than being like, you're different, you don't think the same, you have different values, I can't be your friend. And in fact, more than I can't be your friend, I have to argue with you. Like, is that really the truth? Like, can we just break that? Like, let's shatter that paradigm. Like, I'm so over that. Anyway, those are my thoughts around that. I'd love to hear what you think, what your thoughts are. How do you like this format of not lives? I feel better. My nervous system feels more calm in this moment. Anyway, mwah.